Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new here. My name is Keara, and on this channel I typically post lifestyle videos such as workday in my life videos and my morning routines, as well as fashion, technology, and post-grad advice videos. But this video is a little bit different than my other videos because this is how I learned Italian in 30 days. Well, kind of. So let me preface this by saying that over the summer during COVID, I really wanted to get back into learning Italian since I had taken one course of Italian during my last semester of college. But unfortunately, my motivation kind of went downhill over the summer when I was learning Italian, and I just picked it back up in September, and I kind of wanted to actually be consistent with it and do it for a whole month. So I tracked my whole month's process, and I was also inspired to do this video after watching Nathaniel Drew's How He Learned Italian in 7 Days video and Shea how she learned Italian in 30 days, which is kind of what I modeled my Italian learning schedule after. I used a lot of their tips and tricks and implemented them into this video to see how much I could actually learn in a 30-day time span while working a full-time job. And while I was learning Italian, it might have been slightly easier for me because I am fluent in English and Spanish, but also I've taken 6 years of French throughout my life. I'm not fluent in French, but I do understand a lot of it. So learning Italian was a little bit easier for me, but I do want to say a disclaimer though that I am not fluent by any means. I don't want anyone to think that you can learn a full language in a month, like nearly impossible, if not impossible. But I wanted to do this video mainly to see how much I was actually able to learn within a month while working a full-time job. With that being said, let's just get right into the video. Okay, so tip number 1 is to look up the 1,000 most common words in Italian, and I did this by literally just typing in top 1,000 words in Italian, and I pulled up a huge list of words and I started writing them down every day. So both Nathaniel Drew and Shea kind of mentioned this in their videos, but I can also attest to this. While I was learning French, we're not taught how to learn a language the correct way, at least in our eyes. We're taught the fruits first, the colors, the animals, and things that we really won't be using in our day-to-day lives. So I decided to follow this method of learning the 1,000 most common words because, again, these are the words that most people will be speaking in their day-to-day lives. And then I tried to do 150 words a day. So every day for about a week, I was writing down 150 words and learning them. And it was kind of easy to learn some of these words because there are a lot of cognates in Italian that are also similar in French and or in Spanish. So for the words I didn't really know, I still looked them up and then wrote down their translation in my little handy dandy notebook. And this leads me into tip number 2, which is to record yourself saying and speaking these words out loud. So what I did was just record myself in the voice memo app on my phone, and I would try to record 150 words, and then I would just listen to my recording of me speaking both in English and the Italian translation. Avere, have, questo, this. While I was doing non-essential tasks such as making my bed or folding my sheets or even cooking, I was listening to my voice memos so that I could start bringing in this information into my long-term memory rather than just storing it in my short-term memory. And this brings me on to tip number 3, which is to start learning the 100 most common verbs. So these 3 steps I kind of did within the first week. I did about 150 words a day, and a lot of the verbs are also in the 1,000 most common words, so some of them were like interchangeable. But what I did was look up again the top 100 most common verbs in Italian, and I went to learninglanguage.com, which had like a whole bunch of lists and a whole bunch of other things that you can go in there, such as common phrases that you can use to learn Italian, but I just mainly used it for the verbs. So I started learning the verbs, and I would also write them down in my notebook, and I would color code them with their corresponding verb endings. So in Italian there's 3 different verb endings, which is are, ire, and ere, as well as the reflexive verb ending, which is si. And so having each of these color coded then helped me when it came time to start conjugating these verbs. And conjugation can be a little difficult, especially in Italian, because there's 21 different tenses, so there's way more than 21 different ways to conjugate different words. So I just chose the top 3 most common tenses in Italian, which is present, near past, and the imperfect. I chose 3 just because there would be no way to learn all 21 tenses in about a month, but like I said, I'm planning on still learning Italian, so maybe one day I'll get there. So once you kind of get a better understanding of the words people are saying daily and the verbs they're using regularly, then you'll start to notice a pattern and you'll start to see reoccurring words. So tip number 4 is to look up these reoccurring words and verbs that people are using in their day-to-day life. So if I was on a website learning Italian and I didn't know something, I would look it up if I saw it several times, because that means it is something that is said very often, such as like their little slang phrases or the different ways that they say hi and bye and see you later. I was writing all those things down and grouping them in different groups just so I could get a better understanding of the different ways you can say some things or how some words mean multiple things. So then kind of moving aside from just like learning vocabulary, because you don't want to be sitting at your desk learning the entire time, I suggest to follow these next tips. Tip number 5 is to listen to music in Italian. This one is super easy because you can just have it in the background, and you'll notice over the course of even just a month, you'll start to understand some of the lyrics in the music. But also I would sometimes just sit there listening to music and look up the lyrics and read along with them as they were singing. And if there was a word or a phrase that I didn't know, I would look it up to better understand the meaning of it. And sometimes I would translate the lyrics in English to get a better understanding of the song as a whole. Kind of going along with music is tip number 6, and it's listen to podcasts. I know podcasts are super popular now, and I was loving podcasts all summer, so I thought I would just stick with the theme of listening to podcasts daily. I would put on a little podcast in Italian. I really liked Coffee Break Italian and Learn Italian with Lucrezia because they're both a little bit slower and they kind of use more basic terminology, so it's easier to understand them, especially as a beginner, because once you actually get deep into Italian, they speak really fast and they start implementing slang and all these other terminology, and you can get lost in that very quickly. So I really liked these 2 podcasts because they were generally slower and easier to understand and follow along with. And tip number 7, just like this video right here, you're probably watching it on YouTube. I love to watch YouTube, especially at night before I'm going to bed, or just like to relax or during my downtime. I would start watching YouTubers in Italian, so I just kind of started finding YouTubers in Italian randomly. And since I do enjoy more lifestyle content, I was looking for lifestyle content YouTubers, so I started watching YouTubers such as Federica Gibelli or Giulia Grasso. I'm sorry if I'm butchering their names too. Again, I'm not fluent in Italian. Some of their videos, especially Giulia, was a little bit slower in Italian, so it was easier to understand and follow along with better because it is video based and you can understand better with contextual clues as to what they're saying. You don't have to watch lifestyle YouTubers. That's just like what I prefer watching on YouTube. There's so many different YouTubers, so many options, so just kind of start searching for videos in Italian. In the beginning, I would just look up, I know you're not supposed to use this, but I would just look up on Google Translate like morning routine and look it up in Italian. I would just copy that from Google Translate and paste it into the YouTube search bar, and since I'm using an Italian YouTube title, it pulled up a lot more Italian videos rather than if I looked up morning routine in English, it really wouldn't pull up Italian videos. And number 8 is to use a language learning app. So I'm lucky because my job actually gives us a Rosetta Stone subscription free for a year, so I signed up for the Italian lessons, and I have been able to download the app onto my phone and just in my spare time also start just doing a little bit of Italian modules here and there. I didn't really rely on Rosetta Stone too much, but it was beneficial just to have like as a backup. I would do these little quick courses on Rosetta Stone to kind of better myself, and Rosetta Stone does bunch it up into different smaller categories, which was kind of beneficial since I was just focusing on main vocab used daily. This one kind of did let me understand some animals, food, and people along the way. There's many apps out there. There's Duolingo, which I've used in the past for French. Number 9 is to read books in Italian. So I'm not saying go out and read a huge novel because you probably won't understand that. So I went on to the ItalianExperiment.com and they have so many free kids books on there, and kids books are great because they're very basic Italian, because kids are learning Italian as they're growing, and so us as people learning the language is beneficial to learn the very simple and basic stuff in the very beginning. So I just went through so many of those little kids books. There's quick and easy reads. A lot of them have the text, but they also have the voice recording of somebody reading the book, so you can follow along with somebody else reading, or you could just read it on your own. And then I would also look up anything that I didn't really understand and writing them down again in this notebook. This notebook, I literally dedicated it just to my Italian learning. It literally says La Lingua Italiana. And number 10, I started doing this at the very tail end of me learning Italian for a month, and I took this tip especially from Shea Jordan, which is to journal. I started journaling a little bit of what I was learning in Italian because towards the end I was able to string some sentences together and bring my thoughts together, while in the beginning I was really just learning like very simple things. At the end I was able to make a little bit more complex changes into my journaling, so that's why I didn't implement this in the beginning. I implemented it it at the very end, probably like the last 5 days of me learning Italian. It's very nice to be able to put your thoughts down in a different language, and whatever I didn't know, again, I would look it up and then try to write it down, or I would just try to write down as best as I thought I could in whatever I was trying to say, and then look up what the correct way to say it would be. So those are basically the 10 tips that I use within this month to start actually learning Italian. The most difficult part, I think, for me was to keep the motivation to go, because while I was working, sometimes it was very draining to go straight from work to learning Italian for a few hours a night. Finding that motivation to keep going sometimes can be hard, but once you do find that motivation, it's not too bad to just continue along. This past month, I've really been dedicating a lot of time to it, and I think I've made a decent amount of progress so far, and I really do want to keep going with this. But yeah, let me just show you guys a quick little blurb of me speaking some Italian. Again, I'm not perfect. Literally, you can comment on my accent all you want, because I know I will definitely have an accent, but I think for a month of learning Italian and doing it on my own without being taught anything by someone else, I think it's pretty okay. So let's get into that clip. Ciao, mi chiamo Chiara, ho 22 anni e vivo vicino a Washington DC. Avrei dovuto andare in Italia per la prima volta quest'anno, ma i miei programmi sono stati cancellati per la causa del Covid. Amo la bellezza, la moda e il cibo, ovviamente il cibo italiano. Grazie per aver guardato questo video e spero che te iscrivi per ulteriori contenuti. Ciao! Okay, so that's the end of my video. I hope you enjoyed that little clip of me speaking in Italian. I know it's not the best, but I mean, it's not bad for only having learned Italian for 1 month consecutively. This is the end of my video. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I know it's a little different than what I normally do, but I've been working really hard this past month to actually try to learn Italian. So I hope this can be beneficial to at least some of you. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, or iscrivi a mi canale, to my channel, for more content. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!